Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Unfiltered Vet Discussions. My name is Kelly, and I'm being joined by Jenny and Phil and David and Beth today with the official Unfiltered Vet Discussion Wave. We are so glad that you joined us today. So, in our little huddle powwow of what we're going to discuss today, we wanted to talk about celebrating the wins for our employees and how that empowers the culture of the hospital and just the individuals within the hospital. Like how can what is it? The sum of it's the whole is greater than the sum of the parts type of conversation, right? Um, so we're going to kick that off, but just as a, public service announcement, please like us on all our social medias, Facebook, YouTube Shorts. We're on there. We're on, now my brain goes blank, Facebook, Instagram,
All
TikTok
the
on
usual.
there, right? And all the
All the
platforms for the
things.
podcasts. Yep. Yep. So come join us there. Come leave comments. Come be a participant. But Phil, you kind of kicked this off because you had a celebratory win with one of your employees. Do you want to tell us about that, and then we can
Yes,
go around the
yes,
room?
yes. So we'll start from the beginning. So we have a technician. Her name is Marissa Love, and so she has been with us ever since she was in high school. So she went through high school, got her certification, got worked in the kennels, and she she has all. And I'll say this is like as a hospital dad, like she was she reminds me more of me. And this isn't why it's a good story, but just it's just one of like she reminds me more of me than anybody else I've worked with. And the challenging parts of me, she's way ahead of. Like she already got those figured out. Like, so I'm like, oh man, how great to have that figured out in your 20s and not have to not have to go through some stuff. But anyway, so she's amazing. She's grown in the practice. She's an incredible leader, and she lost her father, a number of years ago, and it was while she was in school to be a paramedic or to be a firefighter. And so we were just, always very supportive of her. And then she got the job with the county, Pasco County, as a firefighter. And then she's going to school to be a paramedic. And it's one of those things we talked about that she left, she moved up, she was doing great things in the world, and she still comes back and works with us. Like we really, just awesome that we have that supportive environment that she loves coming back to work. Well, turns out so Trupanion has this award thing that they award recognition that they do. And I might have the number wrong, but there were like 1,200 applicants or something like that, and there were like 42,000 votes or something along those lines, 45,000 votes. Somebody from Trupanion, I was off, but Trupanion came to give it to her. So she won. So she was nominated, and she won veterinary professional of the year for the southeast, so for the southeast
That is
United
so
States.
cool.
Yeah, and it
It's
was
really
so cool because one of the trucks, one of the engines came up into the parking lot, and somebody from the fire department also came to help give her the award. So we had the fire truck, it was,
oh,
I
that's
mean, who doesn't love fire
awesome.
trucks? But just super, I mean, I'm getting goosebumpy,
Yeah.
talking about it. And it's just to see just to see everything that she's done, that she's overcome. And like, this is one of the, when we talk about, those high quality connections, and, thinking about the 6:30, door to the doctor's office closes. Hey, can I talk to you for a little bit? And those conversations that, that we have with our team members over time, and, really knowing, we all know a lot about one another,
Yeah.
on a really deep level, and just, knowing those things and knowing the things that she's overcome. And I told her, I'm like, you're going to run that county fire department. And I'm not saying that to juice you up. Like, she has all the tools to be the captain of that fire department, or the chief, or what have you. Just really, and it's just really proud of her. And like the whole team, like everybody shared it on, like every team member reshared it on Facebook. And Just one of those things that's really awesome. And she's just fantastic. And, I'm sitting here thinking about like being at her wedding and, when she graduated and just all these awesome things to where there was, when she was 16, sitting on her cell phone, and I walked back and, she's sitting on her cell phone, sitting on her butt, doing something in the kennel. And I was like, what are you doing? Like I was at off your, and she gave me the stink eye, and I was like, oh, and it was like before my daughter, like, I was like, oh my God, like that's the look that I would have given my boss.
Well, it's great because
And
you said this was a proud vet dad.
yeah, yeah,
Because like
yeah,
where did she learn those skills from? Where did she get those tools from? Where did
yeah,
those traits? Like she learned how to do this stuff as a young, impressionable first job. So well done
yeah.
too.
Yeah, well done.
No,
And it's
Yeah.
neat to hear the team really lifted her up and
everybody, yeah,
celebrated
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
And that's the culture.
super, super awesome, yeah, and it's just she's just great. Like she comes in, and I'm like, she's one of those, I'm happy, but because she's not there all the time, like I don't know her schedule all the time, and like I'll pull in the parking lot, and then her car is there, and I'm like, oh, cool, Marissa's here today.
It's
Like
happy
It's gonna be a
making.
good
awesome.
day.
Yeah. So
That's
good.
cool.
So congratulations to Marissa Love, 2025 Trupanion Southeastern U.S. Veterinary Professional of the Year. So
That's
very
cool.
and
cool.
firefighter,
Oh,
paramedic.
It just
awesome.
rolls off the tongue.
Right.
Yeah, doesn't
Right.
it? Doesn't it? I'm gonna have t-shirts made with
Extra
small
long.
font.
Freedom.
Yeah.
Right, on the
Look,
sleeve.
I love that her two worlds came together, that the fire truck came, right?
Yeah, that's
Oh yeah.
Hospital, and
Yeah.
that the two worlds were like working together to
Yeah.
really say, wow, this is a really cool deal. This is awesome. And then, we were talking before we hit the record button that there's not any negativity or jealousy or chopping somebody off on the legs under because you didn't win the reward, or the fire department's like,
Yeah.
we can't believe
So
you spend time here, and the veterinary hospital's like, I can't believe you spend time at the fire department. I mean, all of those scenarios could have happened, right? But they didn't.
yeah, right. So I'm gonna show this to you guys. So this was when I lost it. So she was on the cover, or not the cover. She was in the Pasco County dog from a house fire. So
Oh.
that's the dog right there. So she's
Aw.
treating the dog. Like
Oh,
this was like I bought, so I found out the who took the pictures, and I went to, like, I bought the so that it was legal that we could have have the pictures, and I paid the whatever the money was to get, and we have this picture framed in our waiting room.
That's
too.
awesome. And
Yeah.
that probably means so much to her. That
Yeah,
I feel like for that aspect of it, like feeling celebrated and valued, like this is such a
right.
fantastic way to help your
Yeah.
team
I mean,
feel
just look
valued.
at that. I had to,
I mean,
Yeah.
she's a
dang,
badass.
doesn't
That's
that, like,
strong.
isn't that badass?
yeah.
Like that-
Badass,
that-
man.
That is a total badass.
Indeed.
Fucking tank. Sorry, like she's got the tank and the thing. And so, I mean, the thing, is literally, unfortunately, they're like, I think a kitty, and I think the owner didn't make it, and she saved the dog, or one of the owners didn't make it, and she saved the dog.
Mhm.
So it's just,
So Phil,
yeah, I mean, that's it. That's it right there. I mean, that
yeah, that's
picture is-
it. So Phil sent
That's it.
this to me, and we can put it up on the social media
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
people
yeah.
who are listening, but who actually probably are like, I can't see this because I'm listening to this on
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
on my
And you could
walk,
hot link
walking the dog
it
or
too.
whatever.
It's so good. If you're like, so good.
I think Phil, you should describe in great detail what it looks like.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Chat GPT.
Post it
Chat
and put a
GPT
link
prompt.
so they can click
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the picture to her award.
Oh,
So
that can be
that's pretty neat.
I got pictures of her holding with the fire.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you. There's pictures of
Yeah,
her in front of the
send
fire
it.
truck.
Send it over, send all of them over, and we'll put it up on our social media. And like David said, with the link to the ward and all of that. And then everybody
I
who's
love all this.
listening
Yeah.
can then go to our socials and
Yeah.
actually see the visuals for that.
And just,
It's-
and I think it's one of those things where, we've talked about it a number of times on, together, but if you watch the news, or it's like, we're inundated with, with
Yeah.
negative news. And it's like, we don't hear, and it doesn't mean, the thing is we think that's reality, and we don't hear that story all the time, or it gets
No.
pushed down. Doesn't lead the news story isn't, oh, Pasco County firefighter wins, it's there, but it's like down.
Like
It's like, oh,
overshadowed.
Yeah.
We need happy
Wouldn't that
things
be-
to celebrate.
right.
Yeah.
Wouldn't
Yeah.
that be great if the news cycle was flipped? So we hear all the
Or if it was just,
stuff.
if it was just
Even.
like, it was
Even.
just what it's supposed to be, which
Right.
again, it's 10-1 good stuff, happening.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't
Yeah.
minimize the bad things, doesn't mean that those things aren't important,
Right.
but it's
Oh.
also saying that's not the accurate representation of the world around us. So, yeah.
Well, and I think to what Beth said about she must feel good about that is,
Yeah.
this is to me the core of what we talk about when we talk about high turnover rates, low retention, unhappy team. This is something that it didn't cost you anything to celebrate her, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's not like you maybe buy a cake or balloons or something, but
Mhm.
realistically, it's just the acknowledgement that, hey, you're a badass. You just did something amazing. And it
Yeah.
builds loyalty and it builds trust and it builds camaraderie and that idea of teamwork. And it is a great way to retain our really good team members. I mean, like you said, she has another job and another dream.
Career. Yeah.
Right. Her dream is not to be
Right.
a a specialist veterinary technician. Her dream is to do this other thing. And yet she still makes time to come back and work
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that loyalty and that love is there. And she knows that this is her family, right? This is where I know I'm going to be loved and I know I'm going to and I just think that we lose sight of that, whether it's the idea that we're inundated with negativity all the time. But I do think that in general, humans are relatively selfish. Like, what's in it for me? What about me? Da 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 da
Right.
da.
Yeah.
But lifting other people up, increases your oxytocin. I mean, there's all these studies out there about how, doing something good for somebody else is good health wise, mentally, physically, all of these things. And it's easy. We had a team member that became a US citizen. She was a British citizen. And it was during COVID, and we all helped her study. And it was great because it was like, my team member really doesn't know a lot about our government or United States history or anything because we're all learning now because we're helping her study for her exam. And when she actually went in, we weren't allowed to go in when she had her naturalization, citizenship award or whatever. We had to stay outside because it was COVID, but we're standing there in the rain with our umbrellas. When she came back to work, her locker was decorated with United States flags and an eagle and all this stuff. And we got a big chocolate chip cookie decorated in red, white, and blue. It was just these little things, but she loved it. It made her feel special. It was, and that's not even veterinary related. Like, we celebrate weddings, we celebrate kids, sometimes we celebrate divorces. I mean, there are ways to celebrate the individual that, right, what you were saying, Kelly, it helps with the whole, the team.
It helps with the whole. And the other thing I said, so some, like most of you here know, but probably not on the podcast, I started a farmer's market plus in our town this summer because we have no retail space in our town. The only building we have is $1.2 million, which micro and small businesses can't do. So I went in front of the town mayor. I mean, my town is like 3,000 people. So I mean, this is not like a big deal. And what I said to them, I said, we're doing a ribbon cutting ceremony. And they just looked at me and I said, if we're not the ones who stand up to celebrate some really big, important thing like naturalization or somebody getting this award or birthdays or a divorce, if it's a good thing, if we don't stand up and celebrate, then who does? Who takes that moment to say, this is a really big deal. Let's take a hot second and make it happen, right? And then everybody's like, oh, you're right. So they showed up for the ribbon cutting ceremony, which took, 5 minutes for a small speech and a clip. But we got
Yeah.
the photo. But what happened was we celebrated this retail space we've never had in town. It's temporary. But if we didn't do that, who would? Right? So Phil, who would? Jenny, who would? Right? Beth, who would? David, who would? Well, we will, because it just takes one person to step up to create the cookies or the cake or the moment.
Yeah.
Right?
And I
Mhm.
have to say too, like I think celebrating the big wins is super important and people should get a ton of recognition for those moments. But I think the little
Yes.
wins are just as important. And that's sometimes where it's harder to remember to do that. And so finding those moments and making the time to celebrate those, I think, is another thing that makes your team want to stay, makes them feel acknowledged, rewarded. Like we try to celebrate. We celebrate a lot at my hospital. We celebrate everything. But we try to make a point of like when someone buys a house, when someone's pregnant, we always do a little mini baby shower at one of our staff meetings to try to celebrate that. When people are getting married, we always pool together and everyone buys them a gift to try to, even if we're not going to the wedding, we still want to celebrate them. And we celebrate everybody's anniversary. We call it their PRA-versary. And I personally write their post every year for every single staff member, which has become a bit
Nice.
more of a burden now that there's like 50 of them. But I have committed to do it, so I still do it. So I write a post every year for every single staff member that celebrates like this person has now been here 8 years, and here are some amazing things about them, and then a bunch of
Yeah.
pictures of them. And those posts get like a ton of interaction, not only from our clients, but from my team and them all celebrating each other. Like the vast majority of the comments on those are them celebrating each other, which I think is such a cool thing to do. So I'll do it forever, even when I have like a million employees, I'll just keep doing it because I feel like they really value it and get something out of it. And it's like such an easy way to just say, hey, a little, I see you. You've been here for X amount of years. I appreciate you. Here are the reasons that you're amazing. And thank you for being a part of our team. And they all come up
Yeah.
to me personally and are like, you write those? I love so much that you write that. Like, that's such a cool
Nice.
thing. And what an easy way to just like show them that we care.
Do you
And
guys
I
do
think
birthdays?
being,
Oh, sorry, David.
well, I think just to tag in on what you said,
Yeah.
having the presence in the job, in the moment to celebrate the little things, even, the member of the team that just dealt with a really difficult client, to pull them aside and say, wow, you did a great job just there. I wasn't listening in, but I heard parts of it. Nice work. And
Mhm.
just lift them up for doing something, catching them doing something right. Isn't that, I guess the phrase, but celebrate that. Hey, I saw you do that. That was pretty cool.
Mhm.
So I think I've talked about it here. We used to have a team shout out board. Right now, my shout out board is covered in a big energy bus, the DVC energy bus, and everybody has their tickets. But before that, we did a team shout out board, and I had sticky notes, and then all for depending on how often we were having our meetings, if they were every 2 weeks or every month, they would put their sticky notes up there, and it would be like a new CVT. Hey, nice job on getting that catheter in. Nice job on, this hit by a car came in, and, good job to one of the CSRs for keeping them calm, the owners calm, and getting all the information before they came in so that the team was ready, and it wasn't from me.
Right.
It was from their team members. And so then at the team meeting, we'd read all these. And then when I took it down, I had all of the post-it notes up. I mean, our entire big meeting area was covered in these post-it notes. And then I went through because it was a little too distracting for my brain. And so I took them all down and I put them all in their lockers. And it was like their lockers were full of these compliments from their fellow team members. But it was for now, some of them were like, thanks for getting me my coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. I really needed it. But some of them were those wins that we forget about. That, yeah, okay, the first time maybe that you take a dental x-ray, you don't know what you're doing and the angle isn't right and all that. And then you just get it done and you forget that you didn't know that. You forget when you didn't know how to put in the IV catheters. You forget when you didn't know how to handle the irate
Right.
client, or when you knew how to go above and beyond that client came in they were having a really, tough day and you made their day better. And I used to do this too with we have you come in and you get a text, let us know how your visit was. And so for a while there I was taking all the compliments that the clients had given and I was writing those out and putting those up so then they could see like, oh, it mattered to them when I asked if they had any questions and didn't make them feel dumb when they did. It mattered to them when I was listened to what they said about how to handle their precious little chihuahua who wanted to rip my face off. It mattered to them when they could tell that I was smiling when I answered the phone. And so all of those, they are the little wins, Beth, right? Like they're not the big wins. Yes, the big wins are super cool. I just had a technician pass her VTNE for the first time. So she's getting, by the time this comes up, she'll have gotten it, but she'll get her, embroidered figs scrubs, that the team picks out, but it's important that we don't forget about all those little things. And what is the value of a thank you note, of a nicely written card, even if you're doing the Facebook post, but I'll write a card, put a card in somebody's locker. And the other day, one of my team members was like, Jenny, is this going to make me cry? I'm not going to read it right now. And I'm like, okay, well, it's just an invitation to my child's graduation party, but she thought it was a card that I put in. And I'm like, well, I don't want you to cry when I write those things. She's like, it's just so sweet, but it matters and it doesn't cost anything. And it builds this love, that we should all have for each other.
That's a cute story about her. Am I going to cry?
Oh, it happens a lot. They do. They come in and cry and I'm like, why are you in here crying? They're like, oh, it's so nice. Okay.
But what is that about niceness? Because like a couple of things with noting that you all know that my company is 100% virtual, has always been for 1987. So I try to mimic walking into a building, and every day I say hello online to all my staff. Hello, how are you? How was your day? If I know something, they have kids or they're doing something, I make it personal. And then I found out one of the newer people's like, how cool is it that the owner of the company says hello to me every morning? And I'm like,
Yeah.
that is such a like, what do you mean that's like a big deal for you? Because
Right,
that's
why wouldn't you?
why would
Yeah.
like why wouldn't you? That's just like standard part of the culture and the community that you matter. And where have you been working until now? Like that where that isn't a thing. And I mean, even if you're in, let's say, a big corporation, you still have a group you work with, a team that you work with, that somebody's leading the team. Why aren't they saying hello to you? Good morning. How is your whatever in your life that's important to you conversation happening? Right. And I'm mystified by that because to me, that's just common. That just means you're one human caring about another human.
But I think that there is a vast majority of places that are not like that, to be honest. I mean, I think that's the struggle here, right? Like that's such an example of the struggle that it takes $0 to be kind, but that there are people that still do not prioritize it. So that way it is not the norm, though it should be, and it's a
Should be.
sin and it's sad, and it's why our society, the whole world is the way it is in some ways. There's the people like us that are trying to make a difference in our small bubbles by being the kindness that we want other people to emulate. But I think there are a lot of people that don't value it as much as they should, and the impact that it has, the widespread impact. I think they look at it as like, well, I don't have time for that. I don't care. It doesn't matter, but it does matter because
It does
there's such
matter.
a ripple effect to everything else that does matter. Like even the people that care so much about numbers and are just hyper focused on their business succeeding financially, I think sometimes undervalue the resource that is just being a kind
Yeah.
human and how much benefit can come from that financially for your business.
Right. And how do you want to live today?
Right.
What?
Mind
Go
blowing.
ahead.
Go ahead, Phil.
Well,
But I
just
mean,
Go ahead,
what gets
Phil.
but
what gets measured gets managed. And it's
Mhm.
like if all we're looking at are those KPI and we're looking at ACT and we're looking at gross revenue and we're looking at
Profit.
those numbers but we're not looking at the things that draw into that is trust and rapport with clients, like being able to go in. How do you get a high ACT, which is all and I just think it's a crappy KPI. But anyway,
Yeah, I
is
agree.
you have to have trust and rapport. Like I might be able to do that once, get, have like a 400 ACT one month. But if my clients think that I'm just out to hammer them every time, they're going somewhere else, and if we have if that's what we're talking about in all of our staff meetings, and we're not talking about ways to like Beth and Jenny do, like that we're connecting each other and that we're creating retention or creating stability in the practice. And that we know that there was just a paper on safety and complications with with orthopedic surgeons, our high level surgery and anesthesiologists. Shocker, the ones that work together and work well together and have connections with one another have lower
Better
complication
medicine.
rates.
Yeah.
Shock.
Right,
Is
right.
like, but we have to measure those things. We have to take assessments where we qualitatively or quantitatively look at those things, and qualitatively, look at those things, and they do matter, Beth. You're exactly right. But if we're not measuring them, then we're just thinking A to B equals C with, the line item on a spreadsheet, for financials, and we're not
Yeah,
looking at
and
all the things that go into it. Yeah.
I don't think on the practice level, I don't think we need to measure them. We need to be aware of them. And it needs to be a focus, just as important as the profit is the focus, and the cost of goods sold is a focus. And all of those expenses, we put the attention on that. But if you're not putting your attention on the team and the culture you're creating and lifting folks up and creating a culture where everyone lifts everyone else up, it's the culture that supports the medicine and the business, and you need all of that. That's huge. It has to be part of the owners and the managers and the leaders' focus, and it's the owners and managers that need to model that and encourage that, which comes back to creating a safe space, right? People want to come to, they want to be a part of it because they're acknowledged, because they're lifted up, veterinary lifted up, and just personally lifted up. I think,
Well,
and what you all are describing is terrific.
what I was thinking was in all of the journals right now, we talk about the veterinary shortage, the CVT shortage, right? Like they're just, and so what are the solutions? Okay, you've got add the schools, add vet schools, add CVT schools, change what they can and cannot do, make a mid-level practitioner. The reality of it is if you retain your good team members, you don't have to worry about that as much. I'm not saying that you're not going to grow and you're not going to have to hire people, but retention is the solution now, not in 4 years, not in 8 years. It's the solution now. And these little tiny rewards that don't cost. I mean, I have a drawer full of thank you cards that cost, $15 for 100 of them on Amazon. Like, I mean, you can buy thank you cards for pretty darn cheap. Or you could be like my mother and make your own because she's all crafty like that. Which would imagine how they'd cry if you gave them, here, I handmade this card for
Handmade.
you and wrote in
That's
it.
next level.
That
That
is,
is
look,
next level.
it's my handprint, like a little kid one, on the card. But
So this
if
is
we,
all interesting, right? And we all come from the same place in this room.
Mhm.
We're all speaking to the choir to each other. We all focus this way. But we're also speaking to people who perhaps aren't this way. But my question is how and why, right? Like, if we've been trained to think a certain way that people don't matter, that the bottom line matters, we got training in that somewhere along our educational path that we absorb that somehow, right, in our lives. Because people show up with it, and it's not just because you're born with that's some sort of educational piece that be the osmosis because of our culture or society or whatever that is there. And number two is like Phil or anybody else or Beth is like when when hospitals come and realize what you guys have or what you're teaching, or like the wellness program in Florida, Phil, that you helped create. How mystified are people who are new to this concept? And what is their resistance to change? Because we're all there in this room. Like, this is what we do, right? But somebody starting from scratch, what are the barriers that they may find internally, because we all know it starts there, or externally to embracing that it's okay to externally share that you care? Say that 10 times fast, right? That may feel very foreign or very vulnerable to people. Does anybody have any input on those two matters?
Well, I have to fess up. I'm not good at this. I talk it, I know about it, I encourage it. It's like, and this is true in many aspects of business. I advocate regular annual fee increases. I haven't raised fees in 3 or 4 years. I advocate, taking care of the team and paying attention and planning and budgeting, and you know, I don't. I'm caught in the moment. I'm caught on my hamster wheel, and putting out the fire that needs to be done next. I'm a work in progress. I'm trying to get better. That's our slogan, right? I'm gonna be patient. I'm a work in progress. Just do it better. At which I try, but yeah, there's a lot to do, and I think that is maybe the bigger barrier. And it all the way back to Peter and the E-Myth, right? Working on the business, not just in it. Working on yourself, not just being caught up in the moment, or on your work environment. And yeah, I struggle with that. I'm not the master by any means. I'm down way underneath you all.
Aw.
Such
I
great ideas.
I think being
Let's-
aware and
Yeah.
oh, here you go.
I love that, Phil.
It's to see how
See
far
how
you
far you
go.
come. Right. I
Or
think
just me.
starting
Yeah, go ahead.
somewhere. Sorry. I was just gonna say, I think just picking something and starting somewhere to not, because when a lot of the things we talk about here, if you don't do any of them, this would be really overwhelming. Like, I don't have time to write all these Facebook posts. I don't have time to be doing handwritten notes. I don't have time to be saying hello to every one of my 100+ team members. Like, some of that might be unachievable depending on the size of your team, but pick something that is and just start there. Even if it's just, okay, I'm going to make a point to say hello and check in with every person that I'm directly working with on my team every day. Or I'm going to once a month write a handwritten thank you note. Like, I think you can start small and try to do little thank yous or little signs of appreciation that are achievable, and then just slowly over time grow it. So that way it's not so overwhelming in the beginning.
Well, that's the whole idea of atomic habits, right? Is little tiny, little tiny changes, not huge changes, little tiny changes one at a time. Maybe you put, who was it? Mark Opperman used to say he would put 4 quarters in his pocket. I think it was him. And he'd give a compliment and he'd move a quarter from one pocket to the other. So at the end of the day, those 4 quarters would go from his right pocket to his left pocket. And that meant he gave out 4 compliments, 4 heartfelt, thoughtful, direct, specific compliments. And it was just because that's like my husband. He's not great at this stuff. That's why he has me. Maybe you get help. But
Yeah.
it's the tiny little things.
And maybe
to
you just start with 1 quarter.
Right. Maybe
Yeah.
you just start with
Right.
1 quarter.
Yeah.
Mighty
And-
Mouse, tiny is mighty. We say that all the time. Like,
Yeah.
tiny is mighty. That one
Well-
little. But everything everybody said. But yeah, that one little step
And-
going in the right
And
direction.
I talk with future owners and through the buying process. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot to do. It's daunting. It's like eating an elephant. It's just one bite
Yeah.
at a time, right?
Is that why you have the picture behind you?
No, but it's a common theme.
So
That's his
David,
reminder.
That's
Just
the
start with
reminder.
the trunk,
Yeah.
work
Yeah.
your way back.
what I did this year was I changed my focus to answer your question or somebody else. I used to focus on the destination. And this year I'm saying I'm enjoying the process. Right? It's flipping how I do things. It doesn't make it so overwhelming on anything that takes more than 5 minutes. Right? And we all have those to-do lists and those items at work and personal and things like that. Instead, I said, I'm going to enjoy the process and I'm not going to try to rush to the destination. And that really relieved a lot of stress on me. And I actually slowed down and like I'm like the process is what you remember. It's not necessarily the destination of getting there, which is a hot second, right? Like 3 of us in this room have kids graduating this year from high school, right? You have 2 boys. Think about all the process over the years to get them to this milestone to launch them into their next phase, which college could be considered a destination. But if you didn't enjoy the process of the boys through the entire year, you would have entire lifespan to now, you would have missed all those memories and all those opportunities, right? Just to say, okay, I got them out the door to college, check, yay me, right? So that may or may not help you because each of us are different, but that mental shift was a game changer for me. And I say it to myself a lot, Kelly, you're enjoying the process. It's not about the destination. And I mean, every day, multiple times a day.
See, mine is progress, not perfection, because I think, and
Yeah.
I can say this very much being married to a veterinarian who is, he had a really bad call last week. A client was irate and was rightfully angry. We failed. We made a mistake and we failed. As a team, we failed. And he took it so hard. And I'm like, okay, let's look at this and see how can we keep it from happening again. Let's talk to everybody involved. I made a call to the owner, 2 days later so that they could cool down and we could all have a conversation. But it's this idea that we have to be perfect all the time at everything. And yeah, so if you leave this listening to this podcast or whatever and going, okay, I have to have my team all say thank you to each other. I have to, handwrite thank you notes and Facebook posts and we have to, I've got to get 50 cakes and, like it's too much. And it's about progress, not perfection, because you're never going to be perfect and you're always going to screw something up. You're going to forget somebody's anniversary, or it's going to be a day late, or, you're going to, maybe we have well, it wouldn't be a screw up. I was thinking, never mind. I'm not going there because it's dark. But there are mistakes that we make that feel so heavy. And my thing is progress, not perfection. I am not perfect. I'm never going to be perfect, nor do I want to be perfect, because I think that would be so boring, because that's where we grow and learn. So pick one little thing and make progress. But be kind. We can always be kind. That's not hard. Well, for some people it is. But it doesn't need to be. Just be nice. Remember the golden rule.
Yeah.
So, anybody want to wrap us up for today?
Phil.
Phil. Should we
Phil.
all vote Phil? Look at his eyes.
Phil.
That big with us. Like, what?
Oh,
No, Phil's
So-
like, I'm not doing it.
no, I was just sitting with it. And I think above all, the greatest gift that we can give another human being is to make them feel like they matter.
Mhm.
And
Well put.
just that is one of the things, like to be able to feel like I've been seen and that you hear what I'm saying and that, I'm not just a fly on the wall, and that goes to thinking, in a veterinary hospital, big, busy veterinary hospital, with, if I'm a 16-year-old kid working in the kennel and one of the veterinarians says, "Hey, good morning. Just, how you doing?" Like knowing what their name is, knowing something about them, bringing something up like that, taking the time and effort to just remember something small like that. And that's, if we could all just do that. I mean, all of the psychological safety and all the things we talk about, if we can do that, if we can act in a way that shows other people that they matter, it solves a lot of problems.
Well said.
Agreed.
Nice job. And
That was a good choice for you to wrap it up.
yeah, it was. I'm not sure
Good job,
he
Phil.
felt that was a good
Yeah,
choice,
he's
but we felt like
Yeah.
it was a good
He
choice.
nailed it. He got it. It's
He
good.
nailed it. Yeah.
Well, thank you everybody for listening today. Please like and follow us on social media and podcast platforms. We will leave you with Unfiltered Vet Discussion Royal Wave and an adieu, and we will catch you next time.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.